Envision a book filled with peculiar tales and secrets, which some believe could be under curse. In the middle of this giant book, there's a full-page drawing of the devil with horns, a green face, and a long forked tongue. Rumors of strange happenings, dangerous curses, and even dealing with the devil himself have swirled around this book for hundreds of years. They call it the Codex Gigas, but most know it as the Devil's Bible. A library in Sweden currently houses the very real Codex Gigas. But there's a reason they don't call it a Bible. This book contains elements that have led religious leaders to advise against its use. Some people speculate that the book may contain magic spells and secret information, which they believe should remain hidden. Long ago, during a time when knights fought wars, kings ruled castles, and strange beliefs filled people's lives, the author wrote this book. The story starts in the early 1600s, during the terrible 30 Years' War in Europe. There were armies everywhere, battles raged for decades, and cities burned to the ground. People were tired of fighting and living in fear. The Swedish army then attacked and raided Prague in the midst of this chaos. The Swedish soldiers looted everything they could find: gold, artwork, treasures, and among the valuable things they took was an enormous, mysterious book. They called it the Codex Gigas, which just means giant book in Latin. But this book wasn't famous just because it was big. This book was infamous. People said it contained secrets, curses, and even a terrifying picture of the devil himself. Right in the middle of this ancient book, there's a whole page, 36 inches long, dedicated to a chilling drawing of the devil. It's a picture unlike any you've seen in other old books. The devil in this drawing has a face painted in green, long, twisted horns, sharp claws, and a tongue split in two like a snake's. His eyes seem to stare right out of the page, watching you, almost as if daring you to turn away. Back then, just the idea of showing the devil in a book was terrifying. This was not a common practice, particularly in religious literature. Most people believed that writing about the devil could be dangerous, as it could attract bad luck or evil into one's life. As soon as they saw this picture, they banned and shunned the book. People believed that this picture possessed dark powers, powers best left unexplored. Some claim that the ban on this book extends beyond its depiction of the devil. Inside the Codex Gigas are hundreds of pages filled with ancient knowledge, religious texts, strange spells, and even secrets about magic. Think of it like an encyclopedia, but one that has a bit of everything: Bible stories, magical formulas, science, ancient medical cures, and more. People in medieval times believed that books held power, but this book was different. It appeared to contain knowledge that some believed should remain hidden. A chilling legend surrounds the creation of this mysterious book. According to the story, a monk named Herman broke the rules of his monastery, committing a sin so bad that his punishment was to be sealed alive in a cell. He would never see the light of day again. Desperate, Herman begged the other monks to give him one last chance. He promised them something impossible. He would write a book so huge, so filled with knowledge, that it would bring glory to their monastery. But there was a catch. He only had one night to finish it. No one could write such a huge book in a single night. But as the legend goes, Herman made a terrible decision. When he realized he couldn't finish the book alone, he turned not to God, but to the devil. He made a dark deal with the devil, trading his soul in exchange for the power to complete the book. The devil agreed, but only if Herman added a picture of him, a full-page drawing that would honor the devil's help. Herman agreed, and by morning, the book miraculously came to completion. This is why some people believe the Codex Gigas is cursed. In the Middle Ages, the Church held enormous power over Europe. Most people relied on the Church not only for religious guidance, but also for education, healthcare, and even law. The Church's influence was woven into every part of daily life, and its leaders were often the most educated and respected figures in society. People believed that obeying the Church's teachings could protect them from sin and help them reach heaven, while disobeying could lead them straight to hell. During this time, books were precious, carefully made by hand, and usually written in Latin. Early 1300s saw the creation of the Codex Gigas, a time when Benedictine monks were renowned for their preservation of religious texts. But this book was different. Not only was it enormous, measuring 3 feet long, 2 feet wide, and weighing 165 pounds, but it also contained an illustration of the devil, shocking everyone who saw it. Most religious texts avoided giving any image to the devil, fearing that even showing his likeness could bring bad luck or temptations. But in the Codex Gigas, the devil's image was undeniable, filling an entire page and impossible to ignore. People of the medieval world took images very seriously. They believed that what you looked at could influence your mind and soul. The faithful believed that religious images, such as those of saints or Christ, could protect, comfort, and guide them. But an image of the devil was considered dangerous, a glimpse into evil itself. In fact, many people thought that even looking at the devil's image could lead to sinful thoughts or bring curses upon the viewer. In the Codex Gigas, the devil's portrait is large, detailed, and unnerving. The devil appears with green skin, large horns, clawed fingers, and a forked tongue. His eyes seem to stare out of the page, following you, a constant reminder of evil lurking nearby. The sheer size of this image, spanning the entire page, set it apart from any other known religious manuscript at the time. People saw it as a powerful symbol, not of faith, but of the dark powers the Church warned them about. Some believed that this single image was enough to label the entire book as dangerous. Despite not officially banning the Codex Gigas, the Church never accepted it as part of its holy texts. This was partly because it didn't fit the usual standards of a Bible or religious manuscript. Unlike traditional Bibles, the Codex Gigas contains a mix of religious texts, magic spells, ancient history, medical advice, and even a guide to astrology. To the Church, the combination of sacred texts and secular knowledge, especially magic, was unsettling. People saw magic as a threat to faith, as it could encourage reliance on powers beyond God. Some individuals asserted that the book bore a curse, guaranteeing misfortune for its possessors. The Codex Gigas passed from one powerful owner to another, and many of them experienced tragic ends. One such example is the Holy Roman Emperor Rudolph II, who acquired the book in the late 1500s and became deeply obsessed with magic and the occult, reportedly falling into madness before his death. This pattern intensified fears that the book's dark energy brought bad luck, fueling the idea of its connection to evil. The Church and the public were not only concerned with the image of the devil, but also with the vast amount of knowledge that the book contained. Along with the Bible, the Codex Gigas includes other books like Antiquities of the Jews by Josephus, medical writings by Constantine the African, and even the Encyclopedia of Saint Isidore of Seville. Saint Isidore's works, full of scientific and historical knowledge, made some people uncomfortable because they hinted at knowledge outside of strictly religious teachings. To medieval people, there was a thin line between knowledge and power, and they feared that having access to both religious and magical texts could lead people astray. This mixture made the Codex Gigas feel like it contained forbidden secrets, knowledge that could grant power but at a steep cost. The Church emphasized that true wisdom came from God, and anything beyond that was risky. To understand why people were so wary of this Devil's Bible, we need to explore some core beliefs from the Middle Ages that made the world a place where fear and faith were closely intertwined. In the 13th century, when the book was created, society saw the world in stark contrasts: good versus evil, light versus darkness, heaven versus hell. Beliefs in these unseen forces profoundly shaped people's everyday lives. The Church was the ultimate authority and warned that, although heaven was attainable, hell was a constant threat. The devil, often described as the great tempter of souls, was believed to be actively working against humans, leading them into sin and away from salvation. People ingrained this idea that good and evil were always at war, viewing anything that seemed otherworldly or related to dark forces as dangerous. Books were rare treasures at this time, painstakingly copied by hand and often held exclusively by religious monasteries. People viewed their pages as sacred, often considering them to possess unique powers. People cherished religious texts, such as Bibles or saints' lives, as tools to safeguard their souls and guide them towards salvation. So, when a book as massive and unique as the Codex Gigas appeared, with its blend of religious texts, spells, and even that shocking illustration of the devil, it immediately challenged what people thought a holy book should be. Symbols were incredibly powerful in the medieval world. People believed that images held deeper meanings, capable of influencing the viewer's mind and spirit. This is why religious icons, statues or paintings of saints, Christ or angels, were so important. People believed that looking at these holy images could bring them closer to God, offering protection and comfort. But when it came to symbols of the devil, the feeling was the exact opposite. The image of the devil in the Codex Gigas was unlike anything seen in religious texts. The image was enormous, spanning an entire page, and depicting a creature with horns, clawed hands, and a twisted, forked tongue. The artist painted the devil's skin an unnatural green, split his tongue like a serpent, and made his eyes seem to follow you, giving the impression that he was watching. Medieval society viewed such an image as dangerous. People thought that simply looking at the devil could invite dark thoughts, weaken their faith, or even open their minds to evil. The concept of visual temptation, the idea that seeing something could lead you into sin, was a real fear, so having a full-page image of the devil was deeply troubling. It wasn't just any book, it was filled with texts on both holy subjects and forbidden topics like magic and astrology. This strange mix made people fear that the book itself could corrupt those who read it, especially with the devil's image lurking inside. This combination, a devil's picture surrounded by sacred texts, felt too close to evil for comfort. The Church tightly controlled knowledge in medieval times, dictating what people should know about God, creation, and the afterlife. The Church viewed anything that contradicted this approved knowledge as dangerous and potentially sinful. Magic, in particular, was feared. To the Church, magic meant seeking power outside of God, trying to control events or influence people in ways that only God should be able to do. The Codex Gigas contained various magical texts, like spells and potions, alongside religious works. To people of that time, this was extremely confusing and frightening. On one hand, the book contained holy scriptures meant to lead people to salvation. On the other hand, it included instructions on how to practice magic, a skill that the Church condemned. It was as if the book allowed readers to choose between good and evil, between faith and forbidden powers. This duality made the book even more unsettling and controversial. One such example is the book's inclusion of the writings of Saint Isidore of Seville, a well-respected scholar who had compiled an encyclopedia of knowledge in the 7th century. His writings covered science, history, medicine, and theology. During the Middle Ages, the rare and somewhat intimidating nature of this all-encompassing knowledge stemmed from its inclusion of information unrelated to God or salvation. Some people perceived this as an invitation to know too much, and in a time when people believed that knowledge could be both a blessing and a curse, this was dangerous. Combined with the devil's image, this knowledge seemed almost like a trap for anyone who might stray from their faith. The Codex Gigas's dark reputation grew even more as it traveled from one place to another, with each new owner experiencing misfortune. Many people believed the book was cursed. For example, the Holy Roman Emperor Rudolf II, a ruler known for his interest in magic and alchemy, owned the Codex in the late 1500s. His obsession with the occult increased dramatically after he acquired the book, and he eventually fell into madness, abandoned by his family and supporters. These tragic events fueled the rumor that the Codex Gigas was cursed, that it would bring misfortune to anyone who possessed it. Other stories added to this fear. Some people asserted that someone tore out pages of the book in an attempt to conceal powerful secrets, possibly spells for summoning demons or opening gates to darker realms. Despite the absence of these pages, the legend of the book's curse intensified, leading people to wonder what dark secrets remained hidden. One of the most striking themes in the Codex's story is the duality of knowledge itself. The creators of this book compiled wisdom by blending religious teachings, historical accounts, and even scientific and medical knowledge from medieval times. The Codex served as a guide for its readers, providing illumination, in a sense. But, ironically, the very knowledge within its pages became a source of fear. For centuries, people were wary of the power it represented, with many seeing it as a dangerous object, even one that could tempt people toward darkness. This book holds within it texts on holy subjects alongside spells and astrology, things that the Church warned against. To many medieval believers, this made the book feel as though it held forbidden secrets, a blend of light and shadow that could lead one towards salvation or temptation. The fear that too much knowledge might lead to unintended consequences continues to resonate today, reminding us that what we choose to learn and how we use it can shape our lives in unexpected ways. If you're enjoying this video, consider hitting that super thanks button. Your support helps us dive even deeper into fascinating mysteries and bring you stories that spark wonder. The stories of curses, misfortunes, and strange happenings surrounding the Codex Gigas are almost impossible to separate from its reality. From the story of its creation, involving a monk's desperate deal with the devil, to the eerie tales of owners experiencing bad luck, people have always seen the Codex as something otherworldly. But was it truly cursed? Or is it simply a victim of human imagination and belief? Throughout history, people have attached meaning to things they don't understand, weaving tales to explain what they fear. In the case of the Codex Gigas, the mysterious devil's portrait, the unusual content, and the strange misfortunes of its owners all combined to create a perfect storm of suspicion. The myth surrounding this book demonstrates the potency of belief. Superstition and fear can transform almost anything into a source of dread. This tendency to project our fears onto things we don't understand is what has transformed the Codex Gigas from a historical artifact into a haunting legend. Today, Sweden's National Library safely preserves the Codex Gigas for curious eyes to study and ponder. But the book's allure extends beyond its written contents. It stems from the centuries of speculation, fascination, and fear it has sparked. As we've seen, the Codex is more than just a book. It's a testament to human curiosity and our endless need to explore the unknown. Each owner, historian, and person who has heard the story of the Codex Gigas has added their own interpretation to its myth. They've wondered about the devil's image, questioned the mysterious missing pages, and pondered the supposed curse. The beauty of this book is that it continues to provoke thought and discussion. In that sense, it's almost as if the Codex itself is alive, adapting and changing as each new generation discovers it. This challenges us to confront our fears and our curiosity. It reminds us that sometimes the things we fear most are the things we understand the least. And perhaps the greatest irony of all is that this Devil's Bible, a book once feared and shunned, has become a monument to human wonder and the mysteries of our past. It reminds us that some questions have no simple answers and that the unknown sometimes intrigues us. Thanks for watching. Join our community by subscribing to this channel. Until the next video,